So, Julio, every prep season is the same, especially in the second half of the year, September, October. Our inboxes get overloaded with emails of people saying that they're desperate, that they only have 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to prepare for their case interviews, their consulting interviews. And that's the only chance they have to join McKinsey or to get a job at BCG. And what should they do? They only have this much time. And I try to laugh so that I don't cry for these poor candidates. But the truth is I understand them. Like, it's not ideal. They know that it's not ideal, but it's what they have, right?
Yeah, so they can't go back in time and have more time.
Exactly. So best thing is to do what you can with what you have. And because of this, today we're recording this episode to help you that only have 2 weeks or so to prepare for your cases. Julio and I are going to play a little game here. So he's brought a prep plan for 2 weeks that he thinks is ideal. I haven't looked at his plan.
Don't look.
I've brought mine, and we'll see how similar, how different they are. They're probably not that different because we have a pretty tight philosophy on how to prep for cases, but we've actually not discussed in depth this specific situation, like how to prepare in just 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And obviously, assuming that you don't have a case coach that can guide you for like 2 hours per day, because that would be ideal, I guess. But most people don't have that. So we'll play a little game here. At the end, we'll try to synthesize a best of both plans strategy and hopefully help you out in your 1, 2, 3 weeks that you have to prepare. And if you're in that situation, and if you're not in that situation, this will probably still be useful to you, because if you start your preparation like this, it's kind of stressful. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But you learn a lot really fast, and then you can step back and go into a more long-term approach to case preparation. I wouldn't recommend most people to do this because it's a little bit intense.
Yeah, I think this also gives them a good overview of the whole thing.
Yeah.
If we have to compress it into a specific time frame, you know?
Yeah.
So they'll understand, so there's this stage and this stage and this stage.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's one thing that they need to know, and that I think I want to bring up before we bring the prep plans, because there are things that they need to know before they start doing.
Right.
There's a mindset and there's a misconception that I think should be out of the way before day one of the preparations. And I think that you'll agree with me, because this is one of our greatest frustrations of all times in case interview prep. But here's the thing. When candidates start learning about case interviews, it's probably at university, in their undergrad studies or in their MBAs.
Yeah.
And the thing that they're going to listen the most, that they're going to hear the most, is you prep to cases by doing mock interviews.
Yeah.
By doing a lot of them.
Even if you're an experienced candidate and you're not in a university context, you're going to listen to that online or in books as well.
Yeah, that's what's being said everywhere. And if you have some time to think about it, you're going to realize that it's silly. But I want to explain why it's silly, and I want to explain the right mindset to this preparation. So here's the thing. Learning how to solve case interviews is a skill, is a complex skill. Because it's not a simple skill like shooting an arrow in with the same arrow, with the same bow, at the same point, at the same target, at a given distance, and everything is fixed. That would be a simple skill. It's a complex skill like playing a sport. It's a difficult one,
but it's simple because it's muscle memory.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's a complex one like playing a sport or playing an instrument, where there are several different sub-skills and there are implicit and explicit rules within, and you need to learn all that.
Yeah.
So if you were to learn how to play the guitar just by playing the guitar, they will give you a guitar and say, play 100 hours. you wouldn't be able to do it.
Or learn 100 songs.
Or learn 100 songs, yeah. Or if they were to tell you to learn how to play football by throwing you in a court and saying, play 100 games, and not even explain to you the rules or what the skills are or allow you to practice the skills, you would still be terrible by the end. So the right mindset to think about case interviews, and I think this precedes all of the preparation, is this is like learning a complex skill. What this means is, first, you have to learn the dynamics and the rules, the implicit and explicit rules of that game. That's not too complex, but if you don't do that, that's going to get mixed up with the skills. And second, you need to identify what these smaller skills are so that you can see what you're good at, what you're bad at, and improve in what you're bad and leverage what you're good in. An example would be, let's say you're playing football. I'm terrible at football, but I've played a lot, so this is always the example that comes to my mind.
You're talking about European football.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So first you need to learn...
soccer.
Yeah.
For the Americans out there.
Right. When I was a little kid, the first thing that I needed to learn was not to put my hands on the ball.
Yeah.
And that's one of the first things, that's one of the rules, and that you need to score, and et cetera, et cetera. But then the next thing is learning that you need to pass the ball, you need to kick, you need to use your head, you need to position your body in the field, and you need to defend. And those are all sub-skills. And eventually you understand that you have some strengths and some weaknesses.
Yeah.
You leverage your strengths by choosing what position you play, and you try to fix your weaknesses even if they're not super important in your position. Like a defender needs to know how to kick because sometimes they'll have the opportunity and they need to score.
Yeah.
And an attacker will need, a striker will need to know how to defend because sometimes they're going to need to defend.
Yeah.
And in case interviews, you don't pick your position, but it's a similar thing in the sense that you will leverage your strengths and you will fix your weaknesses. Now, in this case, we're super tight in time, so we're most likely not going to have people improve their strengths. I think that you'll end up agreeing with me in this one.
Yeah.
But you are going to need to identify the sub-skills and see what you're good and what you're bad at and use that to your knowledge rather than just doing mock interviews.
All right, let me try to wrap this up to people because so in case prep in general, regardless of how much time you have, if you only do mock interviews, it's like trying to learn a sport, basketball, football, American football, whatever, by just playing games.
Yeah.
And in practice, that's not what they do. They study the sport. They learn some techniques, some strategies, and they also do a ton of drills.
Yeah.
So like just shooting, just passing, just dribbling, etc. So that's in general. What I think you implied, and that's how I think at least, if you're short on time, this distinction is even more important.
Yeah.
Because just doing mock interviews, it's a more random way of learning, right?
Yeah.
You may learn something specific that you need at mock interview number 10 or at mock interview number 70.
Yeah.
So if you have like 3 years to prepare, you could just do mock interviews forever. It's a very inefficient way to do it, to prepare, but it's okay. Like you have enough time.
Yeah.
But if you're short on time, you have to be very strategic on when you use mock interviews, when you use practice targeted drills, when you learn techniques, right? So
yes,
that's
exactly.
one aspect of it. And the other aspect that you mentioned is weaknesses versus strengths. So if you talk to HR in a consulting firm, they're going to be very positive about the whole process and say that, oh, we're looking for your strengths and what you have to bring best to the firm and all that kind of stuff. And it's not wrong. It's not a lie, but it's misleading. And it's especially misleading to people who are short on time because they do have minimum bars for each skill. Yeah. Can you structure a problem? Can you communicate well? Can you do math and quantitative analysis and get to the answer, understand what it means? There are these minimum bars that if you don't clear, you won't be able to move forward and get the offer. So if you're short on time, you can take your strengths as they are, and you should probably focus on your weaknesses so you can clear these bars. Did I get what you said right?
Perfect. That's what I mean.
Okay, I add one thing.
What?
That people who are short on time should have in mind, which is that they should focus on getting first round ready instead of final round ready. So what I mean by this is when we help people who have like 3, 4, 6 months to prepare, we usually want them to be final round ready before their first rounds, because they have the time to do so, and because then they don't have to worry about how much time they'll have between the first round and the final round. They'll be more calm.
Yeah.
Their chances of passing the first round are that much higher. But if you're short on time, you don't have time for that. So you should focus on being first round ready. And what do I mean by that? I mean mastering the 6 building blocks, which you can find in our free course. These are the 6 types of questions that you will get in any case. And there's techniques to solve each one of them. That's first round ready. What is final round ready in this context? It's, for example, being able to scope a problem that's poorly scoped.
Yeah.
Or being able to structure problems without touching on the pen and paper, right? Like some partners ask you to do. It's being able to do very crazy open-ended brainstormings about the future of an industry. Like, it's not even a real problem. That you have an actual answer and solution for that. So that those things are final round skills. In the first round, you need to master the 6 building blocks and know how to open, conduct, and conclude, like close a case. So now know how to control the case. And I'd argue that when you're short on time, you just have time for that. You can worry about the other stuff later.
Yeah.
It is a bit more risky, but it's what you got.
Yeah.
Do we agree on this?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that we need our set rules for our little game, and I think that's a good goal.
All right. So let's say I have a very good friend, and he comes to me and says, "Hey, Bruno, I have 2 weeks to prepare. What should I do? I know nothing."
Okay.
Jones know about case interviews. And I say, okay, but I'm it's like those things in consulting firms that they do, like, oh, I'm on the airport and I'm catching a plane. You know, like they say the partner's always on the airport catching a plane. I'm on the airport catching a plane. Go talk to Julio.
Yeah.
What's your plan?
Okay. So I'll divide, since you have so little time, I'll divide it into days.
Okay.
So you have 14 days rather than 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I'm going to have you in your first day do all of that learning of the dynamics and rules that I said that you need to learn about the complex skill that you're learning.
Okay.
So basically, I want you to do this in a simple way. I want you to watch case interview example videos.
Okay.
You can watch as many as you can that day, but if you're short on time or if you get tired, I do have 4 videos that I think are a good choice. So we have an article called Case Interview Examples, the 9 best in the internet or something like that.
Just look up on Google. Case interview examples, crafting cases.
Exactly.
Best source.
And
it's the best source because it's not just our cases. We actually got cases from everyone that does cases on YouTube. We've watched all of them. You've watched all of them. You filtered the best ones. You curated them. You made comments on how difficult is this interview compared to the real one? How realistic it is?
Yeah.
What did these people got wrong? What did these people got right?
Yeah, and how to best use those interviews as well.
Exactly. So that's the best source.
Yeah, and there are 4 specific cases. In that article, you should watch cases number 1, 4, 6, and 7.
Okay.
And that's day 1. We're going light on day 1. Then on days...
What should they get from these?
So what they should be doing in those cases is understanding what the interviewer wants from their questions. So do they want a 10, 20-minute long explanation. This is something people get wrong sometimes on, exactly how everything that you would do and an answer right away. Another thing that people get wrong is, do they want an answer yes or no? This is the most common for candidates who are just starting out. You'll ask them, should this company grow 200% in this year? Does that make sense? And they'll say, yes, growth is good or something. So it's understanding the parameters of a case interview.
Yeah.
And, since they're there, they can also give their answers to the questions that the interviewers make and see how different it is, to see how far off they are from actually understanding the feeling of the case interview.
So instead of just watching, pause the video when the interviewer asks a question and try to simulate what you would give as an answer.
Yeah.
It'll probably suck because it's your first day.
And it should suck.
But it will prepare you to absorb the rest of the learnings of the other 13 days better, right?
Yeah. When you see yourself sucking, you're going to create the holes that we're going to fill in with new information and correct technique.
Yeah, good.
So this is day 1. It's only 4 videos because I want you to take a long time watching those videos and solving the cases. Then I'm going to have a big block from days 2 to 5. Days 2, 3, 4, and 5. In those days, I want you to do our free course.
Right.
The free course called Case Interview Fundamentals. It's in all of our online presence.
craftingcases.com/free course.
Or just craftingcases.com or just caseinterviewpodcast.com. And all of those, the free course is going to be popping right in their faces. Now, in that course, you're going to find how to answer what the questions are that an interviewer can ask you, how to answer them. You're going to find some quick practice, and you're going to be able to create your first diagnostic to what the skills that you're getting wrong are.
Can I contextualize a bit? Because I think a lot of people watching this video, specifically this podcast, or listening to this podcast, they're very, they don't know anything. They have little time.
Yeah, go on.
So when people say, oh, what are the types of cases you get? Usually they're referring to the first question. So entering a market, fixing a profitability problem, acquiring a company.
Yeah.
In our free course, we break it down differently. So we have 6 types of questions, but these are not like the initial questions. These are the questions that will happen throughout the case. So every case has an initial framework, or almost every case has one. This is one of the questions. And we teach how to create a framework regardless of the type of problem. If it's market entry, M&A, public sector, market exit, whatever. But this is one of the types of questions. Then there's like chart interpretation questions. There's quantitative analysis questions, brainstorming questions, and so on. And what this helps you do is it helps you always have a frame of reference, an anchor point, regardless of what happens in the interview. You have an anchor point. Oh, this is this type of question, and the technique to answer this is in 3 steps. I should do this, this, and this is risk-free.
Perfect. So that's great context, but there's a caveat. They shouldn't just take the course. 4 days is more than enough to just watch the minutes in the course.
Yeah.
What I really need this person to do is every problem that they see us give, they'll try to solve it, regardless of whether they have the techniques yet or not. So they'll try to solve the problem, and they won't just try to solve. Then they'll watch our question, our answer, and they'll compare the answers. They'll see what's different, and they'll try to understand why it's different.
But they will have the technique, right? Because the course has the technique, and then you have the practice drills afterwards.
Yeah, but we'll give examples in the techniques video, for example.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that they should use even the examples in the techniques videos as drills.
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
They should try to solve every single problem that's mentioned. And while they're doing all this is something that's critical because they're so short in time. They should take notes on what they found hard, what was different, what they couldn't do. And they should take diligent notes because these notes are going to be super useful in just a little bit. Precisely on what they're going to do in day 6. So in day 6, they're going to take everything that they learned and practice, and they're going to do 2 mock interviews.
Okay.
They should probably schedule these beforehand, because if you get to day 6 and you try to find 2 mock interview partners, they're only going to be available on days 10 and 13, I guarantee.
Yeah.
And one of them's not going to show up.
And they can do this through their consulting club, through their, if they're in school, through their alumni network maybe, or there's plenty of websites. Prep Lounge is one of them.
Yeah.
Where you can schedule a mock interview.
Yeah, and Facebook groups. There are several ways.
That's true. Okay.
So they'll do 2 mock interviews. And in these mock interviews, they should... It's important that they try to reproduce the techniques that they learned in the free course. And it's also important that they'll take notes. They'll take a lot of notes from what they did wrong, from the feedback that they got, from where they couldn't apply the technique. And then on day 7, I'm going to give them a little bit of rest. So now they spent a day watching all those videos, 4 days doing a course, 1 day doing 2 mock interviews.
You're too nice, Julio. You're giving rest to people who have 2 weeks to prepare.
Yeah, they need rest.
Okay.
They need rest so that they can actually learn. But they're not only going to rest. It's not a Netflix day. They should take a look at the collective notes that they took over the last days, all of them, and try to understand, give a first guess of where their weakness is. What's hard to them? What are they doing that should be done differently? And that's going to be their focus from then on. So on days 8 and 9, they should do exercise focused on that weakness that they identified.
Okay, so practice drills.
Practice drills, exactly. But as specific as they can. So let's say that they figure out that they can't structure estimations.
Okay.
They can't create the structure for market sizings. So on days 8 and 9, they should do market sizing exercises, but mostly if they should do structuring exercises for market sizing.
Okay. Can you give a few other examples?
Yeah. So let's say that they have trouble doing brainstormings, and specifically they have trouble with risk brainstormings.
Okay.
So they should take cases from casebooks, derive from those the risk brainstormings that they should have. Like, after doing the solution to this case, this is the answer. And an interviewer will ask you, what are the risks of doing that? Okay. And then they can do that brainstorming. Okay. So very specific drills on the weakness that they found when going through their notes on their rest days.
Okay. I could give another example. Like if they have trouble interpreting multivariable charts.
Yes,
so not just the simple ones, but the very complex ones. They can look up online for charts like that and try to practice.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And then now they're done through days 8 and 9. On day 10, they're going to go test again. So they're going to do 2 more mock interviews and they're going to take diligent notes again. And by the end of the day, they're going to look through their notes and identify what their weakness is now at this point. And whatever it is, could be the same one, because sometimes they won't be able to fix it in those 2 days, could be different ones. They'll identify that weakness. Next 2 days, 11 and 12, they're going to do focused exercises on that weakness. Day 13, they're going to do 2 more mock interviews. And then day 14, now this is a very important day because it's the day before their interviews.
Right.
On day 14, they rest. Right. And this is a real rest day. Okay. They're not going to be solving any problems. They're going to be moving their bodies, could be exercise, lifting weights, just walking, whatever exercise, yoga, whatever exercise they like. They're going to eat well, they're going to sleep well, they'll meditate if they're into that.
By eating well, you mean like hamburgers and ice cream, right?
A lot of hamburger and ice cream. People know what their eat well means. I'm not gonna give out nutrition advice in here. But eat well, sleep well, and exercise.
Sunlight, sauna, whatever helps them. De-stress, lower than anxiety, have a great night of sleep. Yeah.
A great night's sleep is super important so that you can bring your A game to the interview regardless of what it is. This will bring in a lot more quality to your interview day than what you could learn in a single day. So on day 14, to me, this is a really important rest day.
Yeah, I see it's active rest, right? Because you're doing stuff. But the way I think about this, because a lot of people just overlook this advice, and I always made sure I'd give to our coaching clients, and I know how they react. Some of them just be like, yeah, I know. But the way I see it is your gains in terms of performance throughout the days as you prepare, they have lower marginal returns, right? So the difference between day 12 and 13 is much lower than between day 5 and 6.
Yeah.
So you could, if you prepared on the last day, improve like 3%, 5%, something like that. But the difference in your performance, your mood, your brain energy, your ability to connect with the interviewer, your ability to not get stressed and stuck, it may like decrease by a factor of 50%, 70% if you didn't take care of yourself in the day before. So this self-care day, let's call it that way, can double or triple your performance.
Yes, exactly. And now there's one thing that I didn't mention in this prep plan, and I think we didn't set the rules of the game well enough, so this isn't here. Okay. But do we want them to prepare for PEI in those 2 weeks?
If they're going through McKinsey, yes.
And FIT in general?
If they're going through other firms, they can prepare for like why consulting, why BCG or Bain.
Okay.
Talk through your CV, but I don't think this needs more than a few hours of preparation, even like less if you're good with normal behavior interviews.
Okay.
PEI, you need stories, and you need to write down your stories, and you can find online advice on how to prepare for the PEI. It's out of scope for this video, but I'd say prepare 3 stories, 1 of each type. The gold standard is 2 stories of each type. There are 3 types, but you have 2 weeks. Yeah. So I'd say 3 stories, 1 for each type, and try to use some sort of framework, like the parade framework is fine to structure your story. And you could do better, but that's what you got, right?
Okay. All right. Now let's hear your plan.
Okay, so my plan is somewhat similar. I didn't give specific days, so I think this is how they can complement each other. So the first thing I do is non-related to case prep. I'd actually reach out to HR and say, hey, I need to prepare for this interview. I have never done a case before. And my weeks are a little busy. Would you guys be able to postpone my interviews?
Oh, he's bending the rules.
Yeah.
Nice.
And a lot of candidates are scared of doing that. But the truth is, like, we've had hundreds of coaching clients. I think I've asked like at least a few dozen of them to do that because they were short on time. And it worked for like 90% of them. Because what people don't understand is that consulting firms want you to do well. They say that, it sounds like HR bullshit, but the truth is they're wasting their time, they're wasting their resources by having an unprepared candidate go to a case interview because they know it's almost impossible to succeed. That's why they train you on how to do these interviews. That's why they point you to resources. That's why they give you coaching sessions oftentimes from a real consultant because they want you to do well. So if you tell them, hey, I won't be able to do well because I won't have the time to prepare, they usually don't really care if you interview in 2 weeks or in 6 weeks. So you can ask for an extra month or an extra 2 weeks. And the best part is there's absolutely no downside.
Yeah.
I've heard this from McKinsey partners. I've heard this from HR, and I've seen it from my experience from the candidates that we told to do that. Hey, call them, ask them to postpone. The ones that worked, which is like 90% of them, they got extra time to prepare. And the ones that didn't, because, for example, they were in they had to be interviewed by this one specific partner because they were going to a specialist role, or and the partner was, I don't know, they were like traveling away, something like that, or they were in a cohort recruiting process. So like, if you're an MBA, you have these specific dates to interview, and they'll evaluate like all interviewees as a whole. Sometimes this works as well because they have multiple dates, but sometimes it doesn't. And even in these cases, like, it doesn't hurt them.
Yeah.
Never hurts them. If you ask politely, if if you're a normal person.
All right. So day one, they ask to postpone their interviews and get more weeks.
Yeah, I'd call this first 30 minutes.
Okay.
Right? Not the whole of day one. Now, they may take some time to answer. So you start preparing as if you had 2 weeks.
Okay.
And the rest, I'll just say as if you have 2 weeks.
Okay.
And honestly, I do this anyway. Even if you get 2 extra weeks, I wouldn't get comfortable. I just do the 2-week prep plan, and then I adapt from there.
Okay.
Okay. So my plan also starts with understanding how the cases flow and how they are. I'd watch 3 videos of cases to understand how they are. You can watch more on day one, or you can just watch 3 and move straight to the next step, even on day one.
Okay.
Okay. It could be the ones that you mentioned. I haven't checked them, so I trust you that you picked well.
I did.
The one thing that I would add to that is if you're confused about like this whole case, because a lot of people, they go to university, they go to an MBA, they already know what it's like, a case interview. They just haven't watched one. But some people are from a non-business background. They've never heard of this case interview thing before. If that's you, a lot of people would go read a book. Yeah. Right? I wouldn't do that. What I do instead is I type on YouTube intro to case interviews, or like case interview 101. There's some videos that are introductory to case interviews. They explain what it is. They show you some sort of example. And I think that's a good 30-minute substitute for what a 5 or 6 hour book would be.
Yeah, agree.
So I'd watch one of these. If you have no idea what you're getting into, then 3 videos of cases at least. But I think 3 videos is fine to move to the next step, and you can watch more videos later. Okay. Instead of Netflix, for instance. Next step, I'd blast through our free course as you did. So case interview fundamentals, but I'd blast through it in 2 days. I wouldn't actually do like very methodical with all the examples. I'd blast through it. I would do the drills. I wouldn't just watch the drills. Yeah. So there's the theory videos. I'd watch them, take notes, do the practice drills, and I'd spend as much time as needed in the day to go through it in like 2 days, 3 tops. I know this is possible because we can see on the platform how much time people take to do the course. We usually recommend 7 days because then you can do a module a day and it's more comfortable. But I've seen people doing it in 2 or 3 days. I try to do it as fast as possible because then you get, when you watch the cases, you get like a murky big picture. Like you kind of know what it's supposed to be like. Yeah. When you go into the course, you get a great big picture with detail on each type of question, each step of the answer of each type of question. And you won't know how to do it well enough yet, but you will know how to do it actually better than a lot of people because you've done the drills and followed the technique. Yeah. So I do that as fast as possible. Okay. Then I would do, you mentioned 2 mock interviews. I would do 5. Because then you can find patterns and find your weaknesses. And this is like the plan I wrote down. I really liked yours, so I'm not arguing yet which one is best. I think that's what we'll do next. But just to be clear to everyone. So I do 5 mocks, probably like 2 a day or even like
maybe 3.
3 and 2. So like about 2 days for that. Again, as fast as possible, because then you apply the flow of the case that you saw in the case interview videos and all the techniques that you learned in the free course. Yeah. And you kind of see where you're comfortable and where you're clearly not comfortable, getting stuck, making mistakes, weak, it's difficult. You see these patterns clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And that ends the first phase of my plan. You know how to solve a case. You're not great at it yet, but you know what specific building blocks of the 6 building blocks of our course, of our free course, which ones you're good at and which ones you're not good at.
Yeah.
So you have a diagnostics. Now, the second phase, it mixes different things going on in parallel. Okay. So this, I guess, would be day 6 or 7 onwards, or maybe like the second half of your prep. Depends on how fast you do the first things.
Mm-hmm.
In this phase, I would do drills, practice drills for the things, for the building blocks that you're not great at.
Yeah.
3 things you can do with this. You can go back to the free course and redo the drills in those modules, the examples in the theory videos. That's one thing. The other thing is you can find case books from Harvard, Yale, Stanford, all these MBA schools, Wharton. You can go to these case books and find the questions within the cases that represent the building block that you want to practice. You can also join, like if you have trouble with structuring, we have a course with structuring drills.
Yeah.
Same type of drills as the free course, video drills with great examples of answers and best practices and some techniques. And if you want to invest in your prep, you can do that. So if you're poor in structuring, we have structuring drills. If you're poor in estimations, we have master market sizing. And if you need to improve your analysis and charts, we have Analytics Academy.
Yeah.
But I do drills to get really strong at your main weakness or weaknesses.
Yeah.
The other thing that I do along with that is extra mock interviews. Not a lot of them, but you need to see how you improve after the drills. So let's say you have trouble with structuring. You do like 10, 15 drills on structuring, then you do a mock interview because then you can see if you got better.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, why not?
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that I would do alongside with it. And the third thing is the fit interview prep.
Yeah.
As I said, if it's not at McKinsey, it's really simple. It's why consulting, why this firm, what are your main weaknesses? And there are best practices on how to answer these questions. They are looking for specific things. You can find an article in our website called Consulting Interview Questions, the complete list.
Yeah.
You can look for that on Google. There's like all of the questions and like the best practices for each, and you can use that as a base.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing McKinsey, you need to prepare for the personal experience interview. I'd say, as I said, 3 stories, invest like 1 hour, 1.5 hours in each. And it may consume like 1 or 2 or even 3 days. Probably not, it shouldn't consume 3 whole days.
Mm-hmm.
But up to like 2 whole days, you can do that. Maybe 1 if you're fast. And that's it. That's what I do. And I'd also rest on the last day.
Yeah.
Or at most do fit prep.
Okay. I agree with everything that you said. I think that there's a main difference between our approaches, which is yours is more intense.
Mm-hmm.
You're definitely giving them more stuff to do.
Yeah.
If you add up all of the drills and all of the mock interviews, they're doing more.
Yeah.
And you're also giving them a little bit more freedom in deciding what to do when. Like they're going to do drills at the same times as they're doing mock interviews. They're going to do 5 mock interviews over 2 days. So you're giving them a little bit more freedom. So what it looks to me like is we're basically doing the same things.
Can I add one thing? If they have time to listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
Because maybe they go to the gym or whatever. Listen to the first episode of our podcast. It's not on YouTube. It's just audio. Like the first 20 episodes of this podcast are just in audio.
Yeah.
You can find it on iTunes, Spotify, etc. Listen to the first episode. And then from the other 20 episodes, keep listening to the ones that the title resonates with you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because the first 20 episodes of this podcast, they are a lot about the mindsets of how to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that people do a lot of mistakes because they don't understand why they should be preparing that way. And that should help, but only if it doesn't take off time from this already intense schedule.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, if they have that extra mind space, then they can do that. But what I was saying is, I think that we're speaking to different candidates.
Mm-hmm.
I think that your preparation plan takes into consideration people who can do a little bit more. They have a little bit more mind energy.
Yeah.
Or maybe they have more time in the day to spend.
They have the whole day to prepare. Yeah, I did assume that.
So I think that candidates can mix our preparation up if they have more or less time during the day, and if they can be more or less intense. And the other difference, the freedom and the boxes, you gave them freedom, I gave them boxes.
Yeah.
If they feel like they need more specific guidance, if they feel like they need, someone bossing them around, which is kind of what I did, then I think they should use your preparation, my preparation method.
Yeah.
And if they think that...
Some people like structure.
Yeah,
a lot of,
exactly.
Like, I'll follow this plan and it's going to be good.
Yeah, and some people need the freedom. They need to be able to say, no, I think that I want to be able to decide during the day if I want to do at a given moment mock interviews or drills.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are going to need the freedom because you can't get mock interview partners every single moment that you need. Like you can't say, I'm going to do a mock interview at 3 and 1 at 5 in 2 days. You're not going to get those people. So you're going to need that freedom. So I think that people can mix up our preparation plans based on who they are, rather than we mixing them up and creating a perfect one, especially given that we basically gave them the same plan.
Yeah, agreed. Like I think there are some common patterns for people to notice. Like at first, you need to understand what the hell you're doing.
Yeah.
That's why you watch videos of people doing it. I suggested that they watch a video or two that's introductory.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to see, like, you have to understand where you are.
Yeah.
And what's the context and what's like even the theatrics of solving a case. Like it's kind of a weird situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
They must do this before anything else.
Yeah.
Unless they already know how cases are because of past experience. Then they can skip this. The second thing that we told them is go to the free course. Now, you could say, it's because it's your free course. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
We told them to do that because it teaches you everything that you need to know to solve a case properly, to solve each question of the case properly. It's a very analytical course in the sense that it breaks down this complex, messy skill into 6 things.
Yeah.
And it gives you practice on your own without depending on others. So that's why.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like we gave them examples on like learning other complex skills in the beginning of this episode. And I think that would be telling you to learn how to play football and giving you an idea. Like you need to know how to kick, you need to know how to defend, you need to know how to pass, etc., etc. Now, try a few kicks, try a few passes, try a few defenses, and now whatever you can see what you were bad at, you get a little bit of practice in each.
Yeah.
So now you're a little bit more ready to go play properly.
Yeah. And it's not a perfect example because cases are a cognitive exercise while
of course.
Sports is a physical thing, but that's right. And then the third thing we both told them to do is do some interviews with other people, because the course or doing anything on your own may give you a false sense of comfort because there's some dynamics when you're dealing with other people and a full problem that has many questions within it. And find your weaknesses. So that's what we both said. And the fourth thing is now go back to drills and fix your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. This diagnosis and solution cycle is something that's present in both.
Yeah.
And it's one of the main things that they should be doing once they've gone through the understanding where you are and what the breakdown of skills is. This is basically everything that you keep doing from then on. Diagnose, fix problem, diagnose, fix problem, diagnose, fix problem.
That's right. Yeah.
There is one thing that I would add that you touched on. I think it's important. Courses. So if you're really, really short on time, you mentioned, it would be ideal if you had a coach who would guide you or whatever. Of course it would. But if you're really short on time, you can also join courses. Generally, they are more specific. Ours are specific on weaknesses. Others are specific on, the full case interview dive.
Yeah.
So joining courses is something that will definitely speed up your preparation.
It will, but it will also confuse you. Like if you have too much to do.
Mm-hmm.
I could say that from my own opinion, but I saw a lot of people online saying that our free course is better than other generalist courses out there that are paid.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess if you're short on time, just go to the free one if you want a general view of what cases are.
Yeah, that makes sense. On the other side, I can also see someone joining, let's say, all of our paid courses. That would not be a good idea.
No,
yeah,
that's
you're right.
Definitely not a good idea.
Yeah.
I just joined the one that's my main weakness.
Yeah.
You could join others between the first and the second round, ours or other people's. Like you can choose, because then you have more time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would just join a course for the first round if it's like, oh, I know I'm gonna get rejected because of this thing.
Yeah.
And I join a course for that thing.
Yeah. Now, I think that this is clear what to do over the 2 weeks, and we've given them options, and people can self-diagnose and see where they fit better. But I'd like to bring up another topic, which is what can you skip? Mm-hmm. What should people be aware that, people are telling them to do and they should skip? They should definitely skip. There's something that's super important to me that is, as I've said, people are going to be telling them, do mock interviews. Some people are going to tell them to do 30. Some people are going to tell them to do 50.
Yeah.
What I would tell them is anything more than, my number is 6.
Okay.
I think that your number is different, but anything more than 6, in my opinion, you skip if you have so little time.
Yeah.
If you can do more is still good.
I think 10 stops for me, but it depends on the context. Like if it's easy for you to find case partners, you can do 10, I guess, given that you do them in the right order. So not that many at first, and then the others just to test your improvement after targeted practice. But I think somewhere between 5 and 10.
Yeah. I think that what people need to understand is that...
And this is not general advice for everyone. It's for people who have 2 weeks.
Yeah, of course. What they need to understand is that mock interviews are extremely inefficient.
Yeah.
They have they do have something good that they bring. They are necessary in a sense that they help you self-diagnose and they help you feel the pressure of solving a problem with someone in front of you.
Yeah.
But they're extremely inefficient because they take a long time. You have to do a case with someone else. You have to schedule with someone else. Sometimes people don't show up. Sometimes they take longer than expected. So they're tiring and they take a long time. So you should really aim at doing as little as possible to reach whichever goal you're trying to reach.
Yeah, and just to give people like more security or more safety on what we're saying, we get a lot of emails of people who followed a plan similar to this. They did a lot of solo practice, used the free course, watched videos, tried to replicate the answers, and did few mock interviews, sometimes even none, which I don't really recommend, but some people did it, and got offers at McKinsey, at BCG, at Bain. I wouldn't say it's the rule, because it is hard to get into these firms, even harder if you're short on time.
Yeah.
But it is possible. So I just wanted to put it out there, because otherwise people are like, oh, these 2 guys are just saying, things out of their heads. Like we've seen it. We've seen it with our coaching clients. We get emails monthly of people who've gone through this experience. We've talked to these candidates and they exist. It's possible. So just wanted to say that. Yeah. But back to what you can skip. I think 2 things you can skip and you should skip is mental math. So like mental math apps doing that stuff. and studying business industries. So I see a lot of candidates doing that. Oh, I'm reading reports on steel companies or airlines to understand the industry better. You can do these two things if you have more time, but you shouldn't do it if you have just 2 weeks. It's not productive. And I see a lot of people doing these two things because they're easy.
Yeah.
Like they're comfortable. Like, oh, just do some mental math and read some reports here and I'll be preparing for my cases. No, you're not. Like, you can do that on your free time if you want. I prefer doing other stuff. But this is not very productive when you're not great at cases. When you're great at cases, you can marginally improve your performance by doing these two things. But they won't help you get first round ready. Yeah. They might help you improve for your final rounds and etc. Now, what I don't mean here, you should not skip relearning some arithmetic with pen and paper. So like long divisions. If you struggle with that, you will need that to pass your first rounds. So you should relearn that. I had to. Yeah. Because I hadn't done it in ages. But that's like pen and paper. It's not like fancy mental math techniques. And the other thing that you should do if you need to is if you don't know anything about about businesses in general, you should learn some basic business concepts. So it's not learning about industries and trends and etc. It's like, oh, P&L, what does that mean? Yeah. Oh, revenues, profits, what's the difference? Oh, market share. What does this mean? Now, a lot of people go to business books to learn this, and you don't have time for that again. So what I recommend is what I call just-in-time learning. Yeah. For that. So you went through a case or a drill, and you found a concept that you did not understand. Type it up on Google. Find a YouTube video, short one, that explains that. And understand, and then move on. And eventually, like, you'll get more repertoire on these business concepts. But if you come from a non-business background, it's important that you like go through some of these concepts that will appear in your cases and in your drills and in your practice naturally. Yeah. And understand them. Yeah, but only when they show up. Yeah, because otherwise you're stuck with like an accounting book, a marketing book, a finance book, an operations book. And you won't see those things anywhere. So you're going to have to do a full business degree. Yeah, you need a whole MBA for that. Now that, since we're on the skipping topic, there's something that came to my mind, and that is PI and fit preparation. Yeah, as we mentioned, shouldn't skip it. Yeah, many people tend to skip it when they're short in time because it's about themselves. So they're like, yeah, I know this. Yeah. I don't care. But it's silly to skip it because, number one, interviewers really look into that. It's important to them. They say it's 50%. You could argue it's 40. You could argue it's 60. I don't care. They look into it. And it's like there's a case that it's gonna be in your interview, and you know what the case question is. It's super silly not to prepare. You mean the case is the fit? You know what the case is. It's the fit questions. The fit questions are kind of like a case that you know the question. Yeah. So it's silly not to go ready for that, even if just for a few hours. Yeah. Also, a lot of candidates who have more time, they have 2 months, they also skip the fit and the PEI. So it's the one thing that you have a good chance of being better than everyone. Yeah. So you'll hardly be better than most in the case if you just have 2 weeks. Maybe you're a natural, but probably not. Most people aren't. Even most people who get in aren't. They had to prepare a lot. But on the fit, if you spend like 2 hours to do a general fit preparation, why consulting? Why this firm? What's your main weakness? Go through your CV. You're better than most. Yeah. For the PI, if you spend, 6-8 hours, you're better than most also. So it's the one thing you can get a spike on. And getting a spike in consulting lingo means doing way better than most. Yeah. So yeah, I agree. You need to do that. Now, one thing that I would skip is the books.
Oh yeah, definitely agree.
Right. So case in point, Victor Cheng. I'm not completely against them. I don't like case in point. I think it's very misleading. But example, Victor Cheng's book, Case Interview Secrets. I think it's a good book for very beginner. You will need to dig deeper than that if you want to get in. But if you're very short on time, it takes like 6 hours to read it.
Yeah.
So it's not good ROI on your time. And I think, you don't have time for these like high level, nice to have things when a short YouTube video can complement. If you want to read it because you like reading before bed and you wouldn't be doing anything else, then I guess you can.
Yeah.
But I'd skip that.
Yeah. If you have a full year to prepare, I still wouldn't read Case in Point.
No, case in point, I agree. It's bad for you in the sense that it will give you a wrong impression of what they're looking for, and it's hard to unlearn these things. Some parts of the book are okay, but a lot of parts are like maybe they worked 15 years ago, 20 years ago when the book was written. I don't think so, because it's like memorizing a dozen frameworks is like the opposite of what real consultants do in their job, and this is what they're looking for. But like maybe it was useful for putting you ahead 20 years ago when people didn't do anything to prepare. They just showed up. Yeah. But nowadays, like it's not good. It's misleading.
Yeah, we could do a whole episode explaining why, but
didn't we do on audio?
I think we did.
Okay,
I think we did. Yeah.
So you can watch on iTunes and Spotify and so on. All right, so that's our 2-week prep plan. Anything you want to add, Julio?
No, not really. Not really. Okay. I think that they have enough to do. I would emphasize what you said in your first 30 minutes. Postpone your interviews.
Yeah.
That's if you have 4 weeks instead of 4, that is almost twice as better.
Yeah, I think that's going to work for 80% of people who try it, at least. No one talks about it. I haven't seen anyone giving this advice to a broad audience. If you talk to coaches, ex-consultants, everyone says that that's what you should do. Even in our interview with former McKinsey AP, Nicolas, which is on the audio podcast as well, he said that this is the thing that you should do as well. So it's not something that we created, that we invented. It's something that everyone says in the industry. We've tested it with real candidates, but no one says it online for some reason to broad audiences on videos, articles, etc. But it will work for 80% of people, and it will triple your chances of getting in. Yeah. So I agree that that's the most important thing. But the other thing I'd say is, even if you can't do that, like you just have 2 weeks and that's all, don't get discouraged. Like try hard, right? It works for some people. It doesn't work for everyone. I wish I could tell you I have a magical 2-week program to get into McKinsey. Yeah. If I had that, I'd be set for life, I guess, because people would pay a lot of money for that, right? But we don't. And we don't because I don't think it's possible, unless it's like 5 hours of coaching a day or something like that. But try it. It is possible. Some people can do it. A lot of people do it without any structure. If you follow what we advised in this episode, you will have way more structure to prepare than other people. Yeah. And even if it doesn't work out, you can apply to other firms and you'll be that much ahead, right? Yeah. So,
yeah. All right. Well, this is it for this one then.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.